There's a countdown.
Okay, here we are. Call and response.
You guys ready?
Ready? Now.
Okay.
He needs to turn on your microphone.
Test.
Test.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
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 I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
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 I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
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 I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
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 I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
I will never forget you. I will never forsake you.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
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 Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
Good morning, Unity North. How about a little round of applause for the beautiful music to come into today? As you can see, it's going to be a completely different kind of service, so I invite you all to suspend any thought that you brought into your, just be present to the miracle of right now, yes? This is Nandi Das, and David Ault is here. I'll introduce him a little bit later, but Nandi Das is going to be doing the music throughout the service. We gave the band the day off, and so I invite you to open up your heart, your mind, and your soul to the miracle of the music, the message, the goodness that's going to happen here today. Yes? And we extend that welcome to everybody who happens to be watching us online. You are family, you are community, and so I hope you can feel the energy through the airwaves. But right now, let's remember why we come together as a community. Let's put the mission statement up there and let's say it together with one powerful voice. Together, let's put it up there. We are, together, we are a loving community of spiritual seekers who celebrate diversity, acceptance, and oneness. Good. Now that was a nice warm-up. Let's do it from the deepest part of our soul with conviction and commitment. Together, we are a loving community of spiritual seekers who celebrate diversity, acceptance, and oneness. And so before Nandi Das kicks in the next song, let's go to that inner sanctuary. Take a deep breath with me. And on the exhale, allow yourself to become fully present to the miracle of right now, the only place that miracles in God exist, right here, right now. Another deep cleansing breath. And let everything that would keep you from being fully present, just exhale it out. Today we gather at the altar of oneness. We gather in the sanctuary of compassion. And we allow ourselves to be fully present to the oneness that exists here in this room. God and God's many disguises, many costumes, all beautiful, all holy, all sacred. This is our truth this day. And as we share of today's message and we begin to extend that energy to the far reaches of this planet Earth, we feel that oneness and that love and that peace with all people. People worshiping in temples and synagogues and stone circles or simply at home. We know the oneness at depth and we allow it to guide us, to be our consciousness, to be our truth. For this day and for all that transpires this day, we say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Together, thank you, God. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. Once again, Nandi Das.
Namaste, everyone. My name's Ian. This is J-Ram, Austin, and of course, David. So Nandi Das is a local group in Atlanta, actually in Tucker, based out of Tucker, that does devotional chanting. And we are also, three of us up here, are members of the Chantlanta Sacred Music Festival Organizing Committee. So we're here to give you a little bit of a taste of what will be happening next weekend, right in this very space at the Chantlanta Sacred Music Festival. And so we hope you enjoy the music that we have to offer. And if you haven't already signed up to come to the festival, we hope you will come. We're going to begin with a mantra that connects us into the energy of Divine Mother. And in this case, a particular form of Divine Mother that we get from the Vedic tradition of India. Her name is Durga, and she's the warrior mother, the protector, the one who gives us strength and courage, which feels like something that's very needed at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and teach you the mantra real quick, and then we're going to start chanting it, and once you pick up the rhythm of the sounds, you can just join in and chant along with us. So the mantra, repeat after me. Om.
Om.
Doom.
Doom.
Durgayai.
Durgayai.
Yes. Namaha.
Namaha.
Om.
Om.
Doom.
Doom.
Durgayai.
Durgayai.
Namaha.
Namaha.
A bunch of pros around here. Om Dum Durgayai Namaha. Om Dum Durgayai Namaha. Durgaya Namaha. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Keep going. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Om Mata Durgaya Vidmahe Kriya Shaktaye Dhimahi Tanno Devi Prachodayat. Om Mata Durgaya Vidmahe Kriya Shaktaye Dhimahi Tanno Devi Prachodayat. Om Mata Durgaya Vidmahe Kriya Shaktaye Dhimahi Tanno Devi Prachodayat. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha.
Thank you, Nandi Das. Can you show some gratitude and some love for creating this sacred space here this morning? There are some other special people in the room that helped to create a loving, sacred space, keeping us all held in the highest love and light. And there are prayer chaplains on duty. And today we have Juanita, Lorelei, Marie, and Nancy seeing us all at our brightest and our best selves, whether we're in the space, whether we're online. So thank you so much to our prayer chaplains. And if you're thinking that this might be a ministry that is calling to you, well, make sure you consider the prayer chaplain training that is on March 28th and 29th. You can find more information on the website and register there. Thank you in advance for sharing that love. And speaking of love, and speaking of energy, and speaking of passion for this community, it brings us to a very special time in our service that is none other than... I love that, Richard. That was fantastic. It is announcement time. This is a time where we get to celebrate all of the magical things happening in our community. Let's get started with the first announcement. So we have lots of groups happening this week. So this time is always a great time to take out your cell phones and take a picture of any slide that you want to take mental note of. But also remember that all of the announcements, all of the events can be found on our app can be found on our website. So always make sure to check those for the full list of events. This is just a snippet of the magic that happens here. In our next announcement, we have our group sign-up starting for our group sessions for spiritual connection. So we know we already had the host sign-ups, but now we take 2 weeks for people to sign up for all of the magical topics that the host chose. Sessions start on March 23rd, but you're going to sign up between now and March 23rd for whatever group sings to you. So you can scan that QR code and find more information about that. In our next announcement, we have Matt Venuti with Americosmos coming back for meditation on March 12th at 7 o'clock in the sanctuary. He gives a really magical meditation. That's my word for the day, apparently, magical. But it really is. I remember when he came last time and the way he creates this unique experience in the space, it is meditation like none other. So make sure to mark your calendars for that. In our next announcement, we have our annual membership meeting, and that is coming up on March 23rd at 1:30. So I know some of us, like myself, can't be there on that day, but thankfully, even though we are voting for 2 new board members, I won't have to miss that vote because we have absentee ballots. So if you know that you're not able to come to that meeting, we hope you can come. But if you are not able to come, make sure to stop in the office and see what that process is for absentee voting. So March 23rd at 1:30, but you can get your absentee ballot in the office. And in our next announcement, so we have this special visit to the Chattahoochee Nature Center that is being organized, and usually I'll say save the date, but I'm gonna say go ahead and RSVP. This is an opportunity to connect with Mother Earth, connect with each other, connect with yourselves. Remember that we are one. So on April 5th, and you can go right in the back after service, there is a beautiful board, and a lovely soul will be there with more information should you need it. And our last announcement for the morning, we are talking about our anniversary celebration and auction and benefit. We actually are saying save the date for this one. It is on May 2nd, and our theme, Silver Legacy of Light, Our Dream Goes On. Doesn't that sound appropriate for Unity North? Our dream goes on. Yes, I see some head nods. We're going with that. It is going to be a beautiful and amazing time. Make sure you mark your calendars, and trust me, more information will be coming soon. So right now, we get to move into a time where we get to celebrate again with people, thank you, with people who are here for the very first time. That's what I was gonna say. So we are celebrating anyone who might be here for the very first time. We have our welcome team coming forward with welcome packets in their hands and Let's Connect card. You can fill those out with pen and paper. You can scan the QR code and fill them out digitally, but we don't wanna miss this opportunity to stay connected with you. So if you are here for the very first time, we would love to share the love and yes, the magic with you. Would you raise your hand nice and high in the air so we can celebrate you here today at Unity North? Thank you. Thank you for choosing Unity North. Make sure to keep your hands up nice and high until we get a welcome packet in your hands. Thank you so much. We will get a welcome packet to you. And also note that in the picture behind me, you see a welcome table. And that welcome table is actually located downstairs in Holy Grounds. And we are happy to show you where Holy Grounds is. There will be welcome team members there answering questions and providing some love and magic. And also, we have a welcome table upstairs. The lovely Marilyn Boniger is showing you right now our welcome team table right here. So you have a choice of where you want to go, but we hope to see you after service. And now we are moving into another time of our service where we get to celebrate Nandi Das with the beautiful song, I Look at You and I See Me.
So just one more thing about Chantlana, because I can't say enough about it. We are so deeply grateful to Unity North for hosting this event and partnering with us on this event. It started back in 2010, and it has always been a volunteer event, which means that everybody who participates, whether they're the organizing staff, the musicians, the workshop presenters, are all donating their time and their talents so that we can collect as much money as possible for the various charity partners that we've worked with over the years. And so when you purchase a festival pass at this point, or sign up for one of the workshops, the money that you are giving is a donation that is going directly to our charity partner for this year, and that is the Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. We're deeply, deeply honored to be working with David Ault and his team to help out some of the most desperate people in the world, and you'll hear a lot more about that later. Now, there is a table out in the lobby over on the right-hand side as you're walking out, and you'll find some information for Chantlana and Kaleidoscope there. There's a QR code that you can use that'll go straight to our site where you can see the festival passes and read about the different workshops that we have. So we would love it if you would go there and check it out, or you could, take a picture of that. And also, we could use some help. J-Ron?
We need volunteers, especially on Saturday afternoon and evening. So if you are willing to just sit at the desk and help check people in, it's not a lifting, moving job, just a hanging out job, greeting people, we would really appreciate it. And there's a sign-up sheet on the way out.
This is a song that uses a mantra from the Buddhist tradition. Connects to a bodhisattva that we call the medicine Buddha. This is a healing mantra, the most powerful healing mantra in Buddhism. In addition to strength and courage, we need healing. We need to be healed ourselves, and we need to become healers. This mantra can help us. And I pair this mantra with my interpretation of a poem by the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. You let the flower bloom in yourself, so I will be beautiful. I look at you and I see me. Isn't it wonderful? We are one. Om Bai Shajye, Bai Shajye, Maha Bai Shajya, Samudgate Swaha. I heal the pain in myself, so you don't have to hurt. I look at you and I see me. Isn't it wonderful? We are one. Om Bai Shajye, Bai Shajye, Maha Bai Shajya, Samudgate Swaha. Om Bai Shajye, Bai Shajye, Maha Bai Shajya, Samudgate Swaha. You are here to bring me peace, and I am here to bring you joy. I look at you and I see me. Isn't it obvious we are one? Om Bai Shajye, Bai Shajye, Maha Bai Shajya, Samudgate Swaha. Om Bai Shajye, Bai Shajye, Maha Bai Shajya, Samudgate Swaha. Om Bai Shajye, Bai Shajye, Maha Bai Shajya, Samudgate Swaha. I look at you and I see me. Isn't it wonderful we are one? You look at me and you see you. Isn't it obvious we are one?
Sit for just a moment in the beautiful obviousness of our oneness. And so it is, and so shall it be. Amen. You know, I say that Nandi Das being here, and Ian Bossio, and Margot, and the entire Chantlanta group coming to Unity North, and there's a lot of you in the room, I can see you. It is a blessing, and I'd like to take a little bit of, maybe credit. I have been trying to get Chantlanta here for years and years and years and years, because it is the happening in Atlanta. It is the place to be next week, and you don't want to be anywhere else. You may think that you have plans, but you want to be right here in this sanctuary and all over the Unity North campus as this group. And how many other groups do you have?
Oh boy, there's I think 8 or 9.
8 or 9, and I'm telling you,
10?
the place is going to be rocking, and it's going to be
Food
filled
trucks.
with spirit. And so we have partnered with them. It is a blessing to the Unity North community, and we want to show up in mass for the volunteer positions that are available. Please, 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 before you leave, get your name on that paper and be a part of this great event. And, I'm going to say it also prayed in Chantlanta here, being here, also brought in one of my favorite people on the planet. I was sharing with David Ault earlier that I knew him when we were two much younger men. We were probably 5 years old.
5.
He was singing in a group in California, and I said, I want to sing with that man. And we've done some things ministerial, but we've never sung together till this moment today. So dreams are coming true all over the place. Let me tell you about this amazing man and how blessed we are to have him in the room. David Ault has been promoting mindfulness, global literacy, and social justice for over 30 years. So he started when he was 5, right? He is an ordained minister through the Centers for Spiritual Living and was the senior minister at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, close to 9 years before stepping down in 2019 to devote full time to his founding work with Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. If you haven't connected yourself with this foundation, begin to do so. amazing work is being done on the planet. And this is the brains, the heart, the soul, and the spirit behind all of that great work. It's a nonprofit organization that empowers vulnerable children and communities worldwide with sustainable education, life skills, and clean water. Since its inception more than 20 years ago, Kaleidoscope has established schools in Cambodia and India and collaborated with literacy and hygiene programs in Guatemala, Africa, and the United States. The guy gets around, doesn't he? And he's doing good work everywhere, every continent, serving over 1,000 children annually. He has traveled the world as a teacher, a heart-centered guide with the sole purpose of bridging our collective forgetfulness and into our great collective reawakening. Sounds exactly like what we do here at Unity North, and this guy's doing it globally. As an award-winning author, a leadership and personal coach, a global education advocate, he exemplifies his motto that people would rather see a lesson than hear one. Would you agree? Yep, and you get to see it and hear it today. David is an avid adventurer. He's hiked the Inca Trail to the ruins of Machu Picchu, trekked the Camino de Santiago, and summited Kilimanjaro in Africa. He regularly leads groups on sacred site journeys. You still going to Kilimanjaro? Can we take a trip with you?
I think once was enough for me.
Yeah. I constantly marvel, and he constantly marvels at the wisdom that's gained through cultural immersion. We talk about oneness. This gentleman is going around the planet, and he's living oneness, and he's demonstrating oneness. As a respected teacher, writer, David is the author of the bestseller, Where Regret Cannot Find Me, and the multi-award-winning The Grass is Greener Right Here. He currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia with his husband, J-Ram Lentine, and it's also a blessing to have him here. Let me tell you, this man lives his message. This man's heart is as true as everything you're going to hear from his mouth today. His spirit is full, it is rich, it is beautiful, it is holy, and he demonstrates everything that he talks about. Will you please welcome Reverend Dr. David?
I feel like I should release the band. Are y'all gonna make faces? Okay, all right. I want to be self-conscious. All right. Good morning. I remember years ago when I lived in Los Angeles. By the way, I've probably told you this before, but I'm a little spoiled. My first spiritual teacher was Louise Hay, and she was actually my second mom, because I was in a trio back in the 80s called Alliance, and we actually formed because Louise was wanting music to go with her message, and she wanted something original, and I happened to be there at that time and space, and to be able to take full advantage of that. So you kind of can imagine that I grew up fundamentalist Christian Pentecostal, praise God, hallelujah. And as soon as I could get out of there, I did. And I kind of made this little notation in myself that I never wanted to have anything to do with God ever again. Funny how that happens. And then I wind back up in Los Angeles and Louise, and I am introduced into this world of new thought, and I think it's one of the most beautiful immersions because it was a full-blown immersion. And I got to be with her, observe her, learn from her, and her spirit continues to carry on inside of me. And I hope she's proud. I think she is. And I know that as far back as when I began to listen to Louise, that there's a commonality that we all share. And the Course in Miracles used to say that there's only two things ever going on, love or fear. And I kind of took that and I thought, well, there's also two things going on, and that's remembering and forgetting. And I don't know about you, but my aim has always been, what will help me remember more than I forget? And so in those times when I forget, can I develop some real sincere self-compassion and migrate myself or pivot myself back to anything that will help me remember? And I can imagine that you're in the same boat with me, and that's still the duality, that's still the dance today. So you can fill this blank in. I can't see the forest for the trees. I never really paid much attention to that little homily, but I had this idea, and I want you to go with, you ready to do a little live action experiment? Take your hand, put your hand over your eyes, don't peek, completely block your vision, and keep it there while I talk a little bit. So what you see before you is darkness, and yet there's a part of you that knows that if you were to take your hand down, that there's something beyond that. You would know that there's a stage here. You would even know that beyond this physical building, there's a city, there's all kinds of activity going on. But for right now, with your hand up still, that's like a tree. And the tree represents our illnesses, our family dramas, our greatest fears, our wounds, all of the things that percolate and stir within us when we're all sharing this human experience. And it can be very seductive sometimes to think that the only thing before us is that tree. And yet, what is it within you that knows that there is something beyond that? It's an experience. And so that darkness that you see right now, that metaphoric tree, is all of the things that play the role in our collective forgetfulness. Okay, you can bring your hand down now. See, there were things beyond that, right? And what's beyond that, then, we will call the forest. And I've decided that what we really get to focus on is how do I become a better forest person than a tree person? And you know what I mean by that? So tree people, what do we usually talk about? Trees. All of the issues and problems. I remember leading these classes when I was a Science of Mind minister, and we had this assignment once where I split everybody up in these dyads, and for 5 minutes, all that they could talk about was what was working. And I said, if you struggle with that, get really basic. I have a toothbrush. I have tires on my car. And what was so amazing about that simple little exercise was that by the time the 5 minutes had taken place, by the end of it, almost 100% of the sharing from the people would be something like, I forgot how many things were working. I was so focused on this myopic tree that I keep doing battle with on a daily basis that I forgot that there are these solutions. I like to say solution already exists. So, what helps us be better forest people? What helps you be a better forest person? Because this unity, these principles, any new thought is built upon a principle, one really big principle, and that is what? The only reality is God. So when I am remembering, when I am in my full embodied forest mentality, that principle makes sense to me. I'm in agreement with it. I like it. It feels good. The only reality is God. It causes me to go into this kind of energy of beyond, looking beyond appearances. I would often teach students and people that I would say, even in the apparent absence of. And so even in the apparent absence of love, there is love. Even in the apparent absence of peace, there is peace. Even in the apparent absence of reconciliation, there is this beautiful symbiotic reconciling that takes place. And that's what a forest person must depend upon. And I have this feeling that you're here because there's more of you that wants to cultivate and create an environment that's conducive to being a forest person than it is to being someone who has become stagnant and stuck in just being a tree person. Right? How do we do that? How do we get there? It is a moment by moment, day by day choice where instead of getting so locked in with the difficulty of what represents our tree right now, that becomes the golden ticket, that becomes the golden moment. And as your beloved Reverend Richard was sharing, it's been 21 years ago since the beginning of this year, that I first landed in Cambodia. And let me tell you a little bit about how that happened. So I was a singer. We had cultivated kind of a good-sized email list when email lists really had some juice to them. And another fellow musician had said, you know, David, you can capitalize on that list and work with these tour companies, and you could go to all these sacred sites. And if you get a certain number of people to go, you get to go free. And I was like, what? How does that work? And ever since I had been a little boy, growing up in this impoverished environment, I had wanted to see the world. And I never knew how that would be possible. And I'll never forget the first time that I tried that. And 45 people signed up to go with me to China. And I was climbing the Great Wall, and I was like, how did this happen? But that's kind of indicative of a forest mentality is, I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm going to take whatever the necessary steps are because I know that there are these opportunities that exist, right? And on and on and on, I started using this system, and little old David from Beaumont, Texas, who came from nothing, is suddenly having these really fabulous adventures. And all during that time period, I was kind of honing my people skills and my collective consciousness, where you look at who needs to go to the bathroom and who's ready to know. You kind of direct, and you can direct people, and you become a really good tour guide. And so I'm really in my element. And then I am presented an opportunity to go to Thailand and Cambodia. I didn't know much about that part of the area of the world, but I did know that in Cambodia, there was an ancient wonder, and I think some of you in this room have been there. It's called Angkor Wat. It's like the largest spiritual temple complex in the world. And it's been the one saving grace that has lifted that country from just caving in on itself after a massive civil war in the 1970s. If you're a cinema buff, you've probably seen the movie The Killing Fields, which is where this dictatorship came in, took over 2 million Cambodians, marched them into the rice fields, and worked them until they fell dead. It's one of the great genocides that has ever taken place, one of the great horrors of our human existence. And so when I got there in 2004, it had only been 30 years since that had happened. And the only thing that had any kind of substance or breath of survival within that country was tourism, people coming to see Angkor Wat. And I had my little group of about 12, and we were showing up just like all these other groups had done previous and continue to do today. But for those people in the group, it was the first time that they had ever seen the delineation between the haves and the have-nots. The haves were us, the tourists. The have-nots were the local people. And it was very difficult. It's very abrupt. I'm sure many of you have traveled in developing countries before, or probably been a part of organizations who work in these types of environments. And for these folks, there is a natural empathetic response to want to do something. And I'm so glad that back then I was naive. I'm naive to all of some of the restrictions that have grown over the years about you don't do that because it's not sustainable, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad I didn't know any of that. And all the people are like, let's do something. And I'm like, yeah. And I go to our guide and I go, I have 12 people who want to do something. And I realize it's not sustainable. They call it a one-off. I realize it's a one-off. However, why not maximize that? Why dismiss that if these people are eager to do something? And he looked at me and I looked at him and I said, I tell you what, take us to the worst place possible. Then he really looked at me like, who is this strange American? And so we had to talk about it. And he finally said, there is the largest waterway in this part of Asia right here. It's called the Tonle Sap Lake. And in the dry season, when the water recedes, all of the landmine victims, the transient villagers, the refugees, all the worst of the worst congregate there. And they create this sort of organic community until the rains start again and they disperse. So I said landmine victims. You remember Princess Diana? So right before she passed away, the big initiative that she was working on was to excavate all of the hundreds of thousands of landmines that were still buried all across the country from that particular civil war. And those landmines, most of them towards the end, were made out of this sort of recycled plastic. And you can imagine 30 years of erosion, and you get these little fragments of plastic sticking up. They're teaching them recycling, so a child or a farmer sees that, goes to pick it up, and then it blows their limbs off. And you have all of these people now without any means of any kind of economic survival. All this stuff is on display. So he said, let's go to the Tonle Sap Lake. Let's take food because there's a ton of children there. They too have congregated there, many of them without families, and they're hungry, so feed them. And I said, feed them what? And that became a discussion because you can't just show up in those environments and bring anything. Now you got to find food that's going to be agreeable, indigenous to their digestive systems. Now you're going to have to go to the local markets. And all of these things are working out, and everyone in the group is still game. And we finally settle on going to an area where local markets are happening. And we're all in on that. And I said, everybody's in agreement? Yes, we're all in agreement. So we end up purchasing 3 local markets worth of food. Those are those big side-by-side collectives where they have all of this stuff out. And we just keep going, yeah. And I have not even thought about how I'm going to pay for all of this. I'm just like, yeah. It means, too, that we have to now order a fleet of vans to pack it all in. Still haven't thought about that. I'm just saying, yeah. I'm being a forest person. Yeah. And when it is time to pay, that little part of me, David, from Southeast Texas that came from nothing, kind of took a big gulp, and I said, how much? And the tour guide is negotiating with all of the vendor leaders, and finally he comes up to me, and I'm like, and he goes, $86. And I just stood there. And I remember looking at my feet in this dirt, and I thought, how in the world did I get here? Even me, this little impoverished kid from Southeast Texas, I can do this. And the thing that got me there was not just this kind of plopping in. It was a collection of forest moments of being willing to lift myself out of any kind of excuse or stagnation or routine or ideology or inner theme that told me it's too hard or it's too this or it's too that. It was just like, yes. And so we paid that money. Everybody pulled their money, and we paid for that. And we're all a little shell-shocked that that's all that it cost. And then he said, oh dear, I need to get a message to the matriarch of that village. So even a transient village has a matriarch. This was in 2004. There were cell phones, but not like today. And I still don't know how he did it, but somehow he got a message to the matriarch of that transient village, so that by the time all of the vans were loaded and we made our way there, it's like 45-minute drive, we pull up and there are hundreds of kids sitting in the dry cake bed waiting. And we pull up and we start to unload, and it was so silent. Even in the anticipation of, what is this? It was just this silence. And for about 7 minutes, it was the most beautiful simpatico communion of taking things and passing it on. And then, off in the distance, whether it was the smells or intuition, hundreds more start running, charging after us, and all heaven broke loose. Do you see what I just did there? All heaven broke loose. And before you know it, there is this whirlwind, this cacophony of yelling and grabbing and pleading. I remember like some kids who could barely be older than 7 years old, holding a younger sibling, trying to get food for them as well. And this sort of just feed fest until it was all done. It was all gone. And we stood there kind of like after the storm has lifted. And this one woman, I do not know what possessed her to wear a white skirt that day. But when she looked down, her entire skirt was covered with little mud handprints where children had been grabbing. And she looked down and she went, oh my God. And she said, this is the canvas of humanity. I'll never wash this. And then she burst into tears. And tears are kind of like yawning. Like when somebody starts to yawn, then everybody else starts to yawn. Even by saying that word, you're already yawning. And so, of course, by her, and it was this kind of really, vocal weeping. Then this person and this person and this person. And I'm David, I'm tour leader. I must not cry. I must not cry. I must hold it together. And I'm having this internal battle until all of a sudden, nothing like this has ever happened to me before or since. There is this knowing that something is about to explode inside of me. And there's no control of self that's going to stop this. And I'm frantically looking for some place to excuse myself. And all that there is on the smelly Tonle Sap Lake is a pontoon boat. And I crawl to that boat on my hands and knees. I get as far into the boat, into the water as possible. And I'm on all fours and I just start to wail. And here's the strange thing. It was not out of pity. It was in full conscious awareness. It was like a purging, like a global or a humanistic purging. And I was them and they were me. I was the little boy who was also starving and hungry, and they were me. And all of this, call it a mystical awareness, whatever it was so intense that it felt like my physical heart burst. At that same time, I was traveling, flying a lot, and one of those flights, right before this trip, I was reading a airline magazine. Remember when they had airline magazines? I'm reading this airline magazine, and there's this really beautiful spiritual article. And in it, the author said, the most powerful mantra that you can ever say is, I'm available. And I went, oh, that's sweet. And then it said, look out. I went, because it said, if you mean it, your whole world will change. And in That pontoon boat, on my hands and knees, that article was the only thing that appeared in my mind, and I just kept going, I'm available, I'm available, I'm available, I'm available. Which to me is kind of like the mantra of a forest person. And 21 years later, we have 2 campuses that teach English and math and fine arts program and technology and sanitation and hygiene. We've gone into the villages. We've migrated over to India, and we have built 2 schools there. When the pilot program in India started in 2016, they were completely illiterate in the slums that we work in. Just this past January, and there are beautiful people in this room who were there with me, they put on an exhibition, a science fair, spoke articulate English, and their literacy skill completely went from 0 to blowing my mind in the last 6 to 7 years. Partnering in Guatemala, feeding children in Africa, and yes, focusing on all of the after-school programs that are being cut in our own country. So we went this past all of January, into February, with a documentary crew. And rather than me continue to tell you about what a forest person has before them in terms of not just my possibility, but yours, I want to see if they will be able to give you. This just came out 2 days ago. And this is the teaser of part of the film that will be finished this year. Do you guys have access to that? Every time I tell this story, or every time I talk to people, they always go, how did you do this? How did you begin this nonprofit? And I think the better approach to helping people understand is that it sort of found me.
The United States is like a potpourri. You know, we have people from all over the world. The Cambodia is like a big family. We are a family. We are Cambodians. This is how we think. This is how we act. This is how we do.
People here really don't have a safety net like maybe we do in the United States. We can fall back on some food programs. And here, I mean, I don't know how the whole system works, but I feel like maybe that safety net's not there. So to have the education, that's just gonna really make changes for the kids.
And these children are amazing to me. They're sponges. They want to learn as much as they can. There's a sense of wanting to just improve their lives and improve their families' lives. Their goal is to help their families, and that's what they need. So, yeah, there's a strong intention to improve their lives and their families' lives.
They were happy to be there to learn. They were happy to be in community with other children. This was every single day. It wasn't just when we were there. They could go there, they could put on a uniform, they could feel like they were part of something, they could have a meal each day, and then they would go back and they would trek sometimes miles away. These little kids walking on the side of the street that it would just blow your mind to see these beautiful children just light up when people are giving them the attention and the tools to better themselves.
Kaleidoscope Child Foundation has, I'm not just saying this, but they've touched the lives of thousands.
The school here just gives them so much in terms of it's convenient, and it also gives them a good playing field and an opportunity that they probably wouldn't have otherwise.
One of the first steps is to provide them an education So when we talk about women empowerment, of course, first thing that we have to do is get them educated, which will make them empowered, which will make them feel empowered, which will make them independent.
The school really tries to do better by female children, right? It's important to have women's education. The world is changing, the country is changing too.
It's creating a big impact, and which I'm really feel proud of as a member of the Indian community. It's going to bring a lot of positive changes for sure in the people's life in this area, the families of the kids who study, and you can just see the success stories happening.
I couldn't have been just more overwhelmed when we went to see the exhibition, the science fair, and to look in some of those children's faces and to remember them 7, 8 years ago on the floor of a cow barn. That to me is priceless.
Human digestive system is also known as alimentary canal.
The paradox is for far too many years, there was an idea that we were doing something for them. And it hasn't been until probably the last 7 years that I've finally been able to shake myself from the sleep of that arrogance and see that they're doing something for me.
Oh, I think we get way more back than we give.
That's how I feel, that they give me so much more than I could possibly ever give them.
They're doing something for every single person that has the wherewithal to say yes to a trip like this, because this was not on my bingo card. This was not something that I had in my little, dream vision board for what life would look like, and I'm so glad that it's not. Powerful mantra you could ever say is, I'm available. And then look out. Your whole world will change.
I want to acknowledge two of my board members, Nikki Murphy, Randy Stevenson, if you guys will stand up. They're a part of my board. And any of you who have ever gone on the trip with me overseas, stand up and survived. Thank you. And so we're going to take the love we've just felt that David's poured upon each of our hearts, and let's make it personal. Let's take it personally, and let's be available. There's a world that's saying, when I forget, will you remember for me? And so as the lights begin to come down, I invite you to move into the inner sanctuary, the place of your ultimate availability to what God would do through and as you. Let's take David's beautiful demonstration and the demonstration of all those who just stood up. And let's remember for each other. There's a lot of forgetting going on the planet right now. Let us be among those that simply remember for ourselves and for a world that needs us.
will you remember for me when I forget? Will you remember for me? Help me see what you see when I forget. When I forget.
Please sing with me. When you forget, I will remember for you. When you forget, I will remember for you. I will see what you can't see. When you forget, when you forget,
When I forget.
when you forget,
Will you remember for me?
I will remember for you.
When I forget.
When you forget,
Will you remember for me?
I will remember.
I will see
What you can't see.
when I forget.
When you forget,
When I forget.
when you forget,
Will you remember?
I will remember.
Remember. We will remember. If you'll take a deep collective breath in, just right now. It's not as insurmountable as it seems sometimes when we become lost in being so locked or blinded by the trees of our earthly challenges. When we can cultivate, when we can curate, when we can become intentional about people, places, and things, we'll call them tree people, environments of vision. And we know this. We know that lawfully, when the willingness to pivot and to see beyond the condition, that then that which is a solution begins to appear. And so wherever you are, the people to your right and to your left, understand that we travel this same road, and that path is so filled with so many trees. And on the days when we feel more aware, those can be the days that we commit to remembering for those who are forgetting. And likewise, on the days when it all feels too much, all we need do is to get still and to simply say, help me remember. I am available. I am available. I am available. Take a deep breath. And we let it be.
Thank you, Reverend David. So in our community highlight today, we get this opportunity to think about this weekend, this coming weekend, about Chantlanta and that connection to the Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. We get to be a part of that magic, because when we connect with, when we participate in the Chantlanta event, we are also supporting Kaleidoscope, being a part of the sustainable solutions and the holistic initiatives that are part of that organization supporting children all over the world. So we, again, encourage you to visit the table in the lobby after service. We encourage you to volunteer for the event. They'll be taking volunteer signups as well. But what a beautiful opportunity we have to be available. And we take that thought as we move into offering as well, being available with open and full hearts, knowing that we can give in person in the baskets, that we can scan the QR code, give online or in the app. There are so many different ways to give, and each gift is seen with the love and the light that it was intended. And as our ushers come forward to receive our gifts, we declare our offering blessing together. So please join me. We are so blessed. We are so prosperous. And it is our great pleasure to share of our blessings and to share of our prosperity. And in the giving, the entire world is blessed. Thank you, God. So as the baskets come around, instead of our usual offering song, we have another treat for you this morning. Nandi Das is going to bless us with a beautiful song, Feed People, Love People. Here we go, Feed People, Love People.
I think we should tell you a little bit about this real quick. Any of you know Ram Dass? You know Ram Dass? Ram Dass had a guru named Neem Karoli Baba. People would go to Neem Karoli Baba and they would say, tell me how to be enlightened. And they prepared themselves, and he would just look at them and go, feed people, serve people, love people, and remember that all is God.
1, 2, 3. Feed people, serve people, love people. Remember, remember, feed people, serve people, love people. Remember, remember that all is God and all is well. That all is God and all is well.
Ready to sing it with us? Here we go.
Feed people, serve people, love people. Remember, remember, feed people, serve people, love people. remember.
And so the challenge has been given. Go ahead and make a little bit of noise, move the energy. And what we like to say here in Unity, if what you've experienced today stays in this room, well, it's been a nice entertainment. But if what we've done in this room goes out those doors, out these windows, and the world's a little bit brighter place because of the way you are acting and behaving based on what David has shared, the meaning of these chants, not just as music to entertain your ears, but it is the vibration of your heart and your spirit that goes out these doors to feed people, to serve people, to love people. This has been the most meaningful hour and 15 minutes you could have spent. Yes? Going to invite you, we're going to sing that chant a couple more times. Up on your feet, join hands and hearts in a remembrance of the oneness. And to take through your hands and your hearts and send it out to the whole planet. See our beautiful Mother Earth, especially Cambodia right now and Thailand. Send that energy that direction and then feel that love coming back as we sing together.
Feed people, serve people, love people, remember, remember. Feed people, serve people, love people, remember, remember that all is God. And all is well, that all is God, and all is well.
So go out there and be God. Thanks for being here this morning. We'll see you next weekend for Chantlanta, raising a lot of money for this great work.
Love people, remember, remember. Feed people, serve people, love people, remember, remember that all is God, and all is well, and all is God, and all is well. One more time. Feed people, serve people, love people, remember, remember. Feed people, serve people, love people, remember, remember that all is God, and all is well, that all is God, and all is well. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much.
Wow, just knocked it out.
Huh?